Hello, inner shifters, how you doing? Your host, Sophia here. You know that feeling when you walk into a yoga studio for the first time and everyone seems to be bending like pretzels while you struggle to touch your toes? Yeah, that was me too. I'll never forget my first class. I showed up in baggy sweatpants and a t-shirt that said Nap Queen, fully convinced I didn't belong. Then the instructor, a kind-eyed woman with more patience than I've ever possessed, whispered, "The most advanced yogi in the room isn't the one doing handstands, it's the one who knows how to begin." She had me start with mountain pose, just standing. And that's when everything changed. Here's the truth no Instagram yogi will tell you. The simplest poses are often the most revolutionary. Take mountain pose Tadasana. It looks like just standing there until you actually try it. Feet rooted, spine long, shoulders relaxed. Suddenly, you realize you've been standing like a question mark your whole life. My friend Carlos, a former Marine with chronic back pain, laughed when I suggested it. This isn't yoga," he scoffed. Then he tried it against a wall for alignment. 2 weeks later, he texted me, "My spine hasn't felt this good since basic training." It turns out, how you stand affects everything from your digestion to your confidence. A Harvard study even found that holding upright poses for just 2 minutes increases testosterone, the confidence hormone, by 20%. Then there's child's pose Balasana, what I call the universal reset button. I discovered its magic during a brutal work week when my brain felt like an overstuffed inbox. I folded forward onto my mat, arms stretched out, forehead resting on the floor. For the first time in days, I took a full breath. My yoga teacher later explained, "This pose tells your nervous system danger has passed in a language deeper than words." Now when my niece gets overwhelmed with college stress, I send her a text, "Go be a child for 90 seconds. She knows exactly what to do. Cat-cow Marjariasana / Baitilasana became my secret weapon for the modern curse of tech neck. After years of hunching over screens, my spine had all the mobility of a rusty gate. But those gentle arches and rounds, done daily while waiting for my coffee to brew, worked miracles. My physical therapist was shocked when my neck mobility improved 40% in a month. "You've been giving your spine the conversation it craves," she said. And that's the thing about simple poses, they're not exercises, they're dialogues with your body. I'll never forget watching my 70-year-old dad try his first downward dog. He'd spent decades mocking my hippie stretching until his doctor warned him about spinal compression. There he was, hands and feet on the mat, hips high in the air, grumbling, "I look like a broken lawn chair." But 3 weeks later, he could tie his shoes without sitting down. "It turns out I wasn't getting old," he said. "I was just getting stiff." The beauty of starting simple, there's nowhere to fail. When my best friend was recovering from surgery, her yoga practice was just lifting her arms overhead in bed. But it counts," her PT insisted. And it did. Those tiny movements rewired her nervous system's trust in her body. So if you're new to yoga, try this. Stand tall like a mountain for 3 breaths. Kneel and fold forward like a child for 5 more. Move between cat and cow with your morning coffee. That's it. You've just started a practice that could transform your life. One simple, unglamorous, profoundly powerful pose at a time. You know that moment when you're trying so hard to do yoga right that you suddenly realize you've been holding your breath? Yeah, me too. In fact, my first 6 months of yoga were basically an expensive exercise in forgetting to breathe. I'd contort myself into what I thought was a respectable downward dog, then emerge lightheaded and confused, until one day my teacher knelt beside me and said, "Your poses are beautiful, but where's your breath? Without it, you're just stretching in cute leggings." Let me tell you about the day I discovered breath wasn't just background noise, it was the entire symphony. I was struggling through a beginner's class, silently judging myself for not being flexible enough, when the instructor had us lie still in Savasana and simply notice our breathing. "Stop trying to change it," she said. Just be curious." For the first time, I felt the subtle dance of my ribs expanding, the quiet pause at the top of each inhale, the warm release of the exhale. And something miraculous happened. My body naturally settled deeper into the mat without me forcing it. That's when I understood breath isn't something you add to yoga, it's what makes it yoga. Here's the wild part: your breath is a direct hotline to your nervous system. That rapid, shallow chest breathing we do when stressed, it tells your body you're in danger. But the moment you shift to diaphragmatic breathing, letting your belly rise like a balloon inflating, you flip a biological switch. A. Johns Hopkins study found that yogic breathing reduces cortisol levels faster than cognitive behavioral therapy for some people. My friend Mark, a high school teacher with anxiety, proved this when he started practicing 5-5 breathing. Inhale 5 counts, exhale 5 counts between classes. "The kids think I'm just sipping coffee," he laughed. "Really, I'm hacking my stress response." But breath awareness isn't about perfection, it's about presence. I learned this from watching my niece, who has asthma, navigate her first yoga class. While others flowed through vinyasas, she sat cross-legged, one hand on her belly, simply observing each breath like it was a fascinating science experiment. "My lungs feel like little bellows," she marveled afterward. That image stuck with me. Now when I catch myself straining in a pose, I ask, are my bellows still working? The real magic happens when breath becomes your compass. My mentor, a yoga therapist who works with trauma survivors, taught me this trick. Let your exhale be longer than your inhale in challenging poses. It's your body's natural release valve. I tested this during a particularly grueling hip opener, my nemesis, consciously extending each exhale. Instead of fighting the discomfort, I found myself softening into it. Turns out, a 2022 study in Frontiers in Psychology found this exact technique reduces pain perception by 28%. Here's what no one tells beginners: your breath will betray your ego before your mind catches up. That time you're pushing too hard in Warrior II, your breath turns ragged. When you're distracted during meditation, it becomes shallow. My yoga buddy Carlos calls it the world's most honest mirror. After his third spinal surgery, his entire practice became breath-focused chair yoga. "I used to judge my practice by how deep I could fold," he said. "So now I measure it by how deeply I can breathe while folding." So if you're new to this, try this tonight. Lie on your bed and place one hand on your belly, one on your chest. Breathe normally. Notice which hand moves more. Then gently guide the breath deeper into your abdomen, imagining you're filling a pitcher from the bottom up. That's it. You're not just breathing, you're coming home to the rhythm that's kept you alive since your first cry. All right, settle in, this one's close to my heart. Let's talk about yoga props, not like some accessory you keep in a bin at the back of the studio, but as trusted companions on your journey. This isn't going to be a technical walkthrough. It's more like me sharing a warm cup of tea with you after class, reflecting on all the little ways support, real, tangible support, can transform a practice and maybe a life too. When I first started learning about yoga, I had this image in my mind. A perfect pose, limbs extended just right, serene expression, deep breaths. The kind of image you see on magazine covers or in curated Instagram reels. What I didn't see in that fantasy was the quiet courage it takes to admit, I need something to help me here. That courage, that's where the props come in. A block is so much more than a foam rectangle. It's a bridge between not yet and getting there. I remember hearing about someone, I'll call her Maria. She came into yoga late in life, after decades of believing her body couldn't do that sort of thing. She had injuries, insecurities, and a whole story that said flexibility was for someone else. On her first day, the teacher handed her 2 blocks and a strap. She felt kind of insulted at first, like, why me? Why not them? But what happened in that session changed everything. With a block under each hand, she could actually feel what it was like to lengthen her spine in a forward fold without straining. For the first time, she wasn't fighting her body. She was with it. That moment when her breath deepened, her shoulders dropped, and her face softened, I wish I could bottle that. Props are a way of telling your nervous system you are safe. And when your body hears that message often enough, it starts to trust you. And when it trusts you, it begins to open. Not because you forced it, but because you invited it gently, patiently. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Straps are another beautiful piece of this story. If blocks build the bridge, straps remind you not to overreach. I once practiced with a man named Daniel who had the tightest hamstrings I've ever seen. He was this tall, stoic engineer, always trying to muscle his way into stretches. The moment he swapped ego for a strap, looped it around his foot during seated forward bends, he laughed out loud. He could feel his hamstrings releasing in a way they never had before. It's like my legs finally figured out I'm not at war with them, he said. Sometimes support doesn't just help your body, it humbles your spirit in the best possible way. There's this myth that yoga is about independence. But I think the real heart of it is interdependence. Asking for help, leaning into tools, accepting support, it's not a weakness. It's a deep, courageous kind of strength. Every time you reach for a block or wrap that strap around your foot or thigh, you're rewriting a quiet story that says, I have to do it all alone. I knew a woman named Simone who used to come to class early just to grab the worn-out block with the chunk missing. She said it reminded her that being useful doesn't require being flawless. That beat-up prop had seen years of effort and growth and surrender. And still, it supported like a champ. The most powerful thing about props is what they model. They remind us that support is normal. United. That your journey is not about looking like the picture, but feeling the pose, truly living inside it. When your hand can't reach the floor, a block makes the floor come up to meet you. That gesture alone, meeting yourself where you are, is radical. Sometimes we get so caught up in performance, in the idealized versions of ourselves, that we forget the strength is in the showing up. And sometimes showing up means using 3 blocks, 2 straps, and all the bolsters in the room. So be it. I once watched someone finally get into a full wheel pose after years of trying. You know how they did it, not with brute strength or force. They slid 2 blocks under their hands to lift the floor and used a strap to keep their elbows aligned. And when they finally pushed up, their whole face lit up. Not just because of the shape, but because of the realization, I am allowed to be helped. That to me is the heart of yoga. This deeply human moment of saying, I'm here. I'm doing my best. And I'll take all the support I can get. So next time you're on the mat and you reach for that strap or place that block beneath you, don't think of it as a shortcut. Think of it as a love letter to your body, a message that says you don't have to force it. You don't have to prove anything. You're enough, and I'm right here with you. And honestly, that's the kind of message we could all use on and off the mat. So whether it's yoga or life, we're never meant to walk it alone. A support is sacred. Props are proof. Let them catch you. Let them lift you. And when you feel ready, when the time comes, you'll find you can go further, not because you had to, but because someone or something believed in you enough to help you stand tall. That's the beauty of props. They're not there to fix you. They're there to remind you you were never broken. Just in need of a little kindness, a little patience, a little lift. And isn't that something worth reaching for? So picture us chatting after class again, a little sweaty, a little radiant, mats rolled up, hearts open. Let's talk about listening to your body, that soft inner voice we often ignore until it starts to shout. You know, one of the most powerful lessons yoga teaches isn't how to touch your toes or hold a plank. It's how to tune in. To actually pause, breathe, and ask, how am I feeling? Sounds simple, right? But in a world that's constantly telling us to push, to achieve, to go hard or go home, that quiet self-check can feel downright revolutionary. There's this woman I used to know, Clara. She came to yoga after burning out from a high-stress job in finance. She had this idea that success meant striving, push more, do more, ignore the signals. So naturally, when she rolled out her mat, she brought that same energy. Her early practice looked like a war. She'd clench her jaw in warrior ii, hold her breath in crow, and glare at the yogis who dared use props. Until one day, in pigeon pose of all things, something shifted. The teacher walked by and quietly whispered, "You're safe. You can soften now." And something in her just broke open. She melted into the mat, let the tension go, and cried. For the first time, she realized yoga wasn't something to conquer. It was something to feel. Pain is not the price of progress. That's such a myth, not just in yoga, but in life. Discomfort, sure, sometimes growth comes with it. But pain, real, sharp, breath-stealing pain, is your body screaming, "Please stop." Listening to that is not defeat. It's devotion. I once saw a guy, maybe mid-60s, practicing next to a group of college kids. While they were twisting themselves into pretzels, he just stood in mountain pose, eyes closed, breathing. That was his yoga that day. Not flashy, not gram-worthy, but honest. And honestly, it was beautiful. Listening to your body doesn't mean doing less, it means doing right. There's a difference between a pose looking correct and a pose feeling true. That difference is where the magic lives. When you soften into a gentle stretch rather than yank your hamstrings like a tug of war, your body responds with gratitude, not resistance. That's when range opens up, strength deepens, and something intangible, peace maybe, settles in. A dear friend of mine once said yoga taught her how to finally listen to her body after years of trauma. For her, noticing the difference between a stretch and a threat was profound. Every time she honored the edge without pushing past it, it was like reestablishing trust with her own skin and bones. Her mat became a healing place, not another battlefield. There's this image that gets tossed around a lot, find your edge. And yeah, sometimes we dance there. But I think a more powerful invitation is find your center. That space where challenge meets compassion, where effort is met with breath, and where no moment is too small to matter. So if you're practicing and something hurts, really hurts, pause. Come out. Modify, rest. And if someone in the front row is folding like origami while you're using half the prop shelf and barely bending your knees, let them. Your body, your story, your rules. There's something so tender, so brave about saying, this is as far as I go today, and that's okay. And maybe tomorrow it's a little different. Or maybe not. Your worth is not measured in flexibility. Your value does not rise with how close your forehead gets to your shins. What makes your practice real is not the depth of your stretch, but the depth of your attention. And that attention, pure, honest, and kind, can shift everything. So next time you're in a pose and you feel that pinch, that jolt, or that whisper of too much, listen. Not later. Not when you're limping into Savasana. Now, right then. And give yourself permission to pull back, to breathe, to let go of the need to be impressive and embrace the need to be well. Because yoga isn't about how far you go. It's about how deeply you listen. It's about how gently you treat yourself in a world that often forgets to be gentle. And it's about showing up not as the best version of yourself, but as the truest version. Keep practicing like that, and I promise your body will thank you in languages you didn't know it could speak. I thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, and do all those lovely things you wonderful people do. I'll see you next time.